$1 million worth.
There we go. Okay. So I'll kick us off. My name is Jackie Worster. I am the chair of this emergency preparedness team from ARCO, the River Road Community Organization. But these meetings are really run by the Northwest Eugene neighborhood. So we have Santa Clara, Bethel, and River Road. We all kind of plan these meetings each month and come together to talk about what's important in the emergency preparedness world for us. Ed, I have you up next on my screen.
I'm Ed Farron. I'm on the Bethel Neighborhood Board of Directors, and I'm the Northwest Eugene leader for the Community Emergency Response Team.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed. Charlesie?
Yes, I'm Charlesie Cartwright, and I'm with the River Road Community Organization. I'm on the board there, and my primary activity with it is to work with Jackie on this and these efforts. So nice to be here.
Thank you. Wendy.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I kind of low key in the River Road area, but I've been converting my yard and so on and so forth as, eco-friendly as I possibly can, and working with Jan. He's my neighbor. I live 2 houses from him. So, but this particular topic interested me because of what's going on over in Russia.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're threatening to take down our grid. So, and they have the capability to do it. So let's hope it doesn't happen, but let's be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome. The perfect timing, to start having those conversations. Lisa, I have you up next.
Hey, I'm Lisa, and you can't see my partner, Thomas Soul, because he's in the middle of dosing out some medication, but we live in the River Road area, and I've long been interested in disaster recovery, especially Thomas and I both worked really hard during the wildfires to help provide emergency housing and help the homeless during that disaster. And what we found was a real lack of coordination amongst agencies and a lack of resources for the homeless, which I've been involved with for a long time as well. And so when this group formed up, unfortunately I had a health issue and I couldn't join it, but I'm on the other side of that. And so we were concerned about disaster preparedness. Thomas is in the middle of putting a food forest in our backyard where we're going to be growing food, both for ourselves and for the Catholic Workers Homeless Effort and the Burrito Brigade Waste to Taste pantries. We grew about 400 pounds of food last year, and we haven't figured out how much food we're going to grow this year, but it'll be a lot.
Well, great to have you here with us tonight. Welcome. Mysti, I have you up next.
Hi, how are y'all doing? Long time no see. It's good to see everybody. I'm like, my family. Oh, Mysti Frost. I was on the board of directors for River Road Community Organization, and last March got voted off. I was having a pretty rough year, as many. 2020, 2021 was pretty rough, and but I'm back feeling better, and I currently work for 211 Info on the statewide COVID vaccine information hotline, or COVID-19 hotline, and we were also the non-emergency phone line during the fires. And that was an eye-opening experience because I got to see all of the gaps and cracks in the system, who fell through and who was left behind and who had resources and who didn't. And I thought to myself, what can I do? And I'm like, well, I'm on the board of River Road Community Organization. And so we could probably put together an emergency preparedness team and at least get organize in my community to do what little I can to make things easier. So I was part of the founding of this group. And yes, I took a long break and now I'm back. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you, Misty. Thea, I have you up next.
I'm trying to adjust for low light here, but it's kind of hard to do. I'm with Friendly Area Neighbors on their board now over a year, and with the preparedness team, Ready Friendly, going into 5th year, and really learning a lot from River Road's team. Really excited about the evacuation exercise, hoping to do something similar in Friendly Area, and here to keep learning. Thank you so much.
Good to have you here.
Thanks.
Let's see, Tom, I have you up next.
Yes. Hi, there we are. Yeah, Tom, South Eugene. We're just new with my partner Kelly. We're just new in Eugene. Well, new during the pandemic, and so we're just starting to learn and get more involved with all of you in the disaster preparedness community, and finding ways that we can learn from you all, and then find ways to help as we learn more about who's doing what.
Awesome, good to have you here. Welcome. And Kate, I have you up on my screen next.
Hey, I'm Kate Perle. I'm the chair of the Santa Clara Community Organization, and not very well prepared, and know it. So, and know that our community organization has a hard time rallying members to get organized about it. So there are individuals who are very well prepared, and a lot of people who are complacent about it, and then some people in the middle. But Joel Robe has been participating with you guys pretty actively, and Joel didn't want to try to organize people unless more people would show up. And so I'm trying to do my best not to take on yet another organizing role in it, but to be one of the people who shows up and supports Joel in helping organize people to get more involved in our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Awesome, appreciate the support. That's great. Yeah, Joel has been working very hard. He organizes so many things and puts together so much documentation. It's been awesome. So thanks for coming. All right, I think that was everybody I caught on the screen. I'll keep an eye on the participant list. We don't usually have the waiting room enabled for our meetings. It was kind of enabled for this meeting change. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that in case anybody else joins late. But I think this is everybody for tonight. So we kind of have a pretty light formal agenda as far as our meeting goes tonight. We wanted to reflect on the virtual evacuation exercise that we held back in February. We simulated a chlorine leak at the rail yard here in River Road. Yeah, Misty?
Jackie, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if your microphone is, I don't know. You kind of come in and out. Anyway, I thought it might be on your shirt or something. And
no, it's just on my computer. Usually I have a headset and I couldn't get connected.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Is everybody having trouble hearing me?
It's a little muffled.
It's a little muffled for me too.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me try to reconnect my headset. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
I mean, we want to be able to hear you, Jackie.
Give you a topic.
I'm a good actress, but you know.
Talk amongst yourselves.
If anybody here hasn't watched the video from that February exercise, it's really worthwhile watching it, even after you talk about it now.
Yeah, I've been meaning.
Not in the link. How long was it?
It's about an hour and a half,
Manageable.
I would say. A lot was covered. It was jam-packed, I think.
Did we learn some things?
Oh, gosh, yes. Yes, it was very challenging. I mean, I went into it assuming certain things about what I felt about evacuation, and my thoughts got clarified in a different direction as a result of the exercise. And I think tonight we'll talk a bit about maybe what our next exercise will be about, and I'm looking forward to it. It's an excellent tool for learning experientially, as close as you can get to it, an experiential learning process, I think.
Good to know. I will go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Question, I don't know the answer. If something were to happen, some kind of catastrophe, let's just say an invasion or something, what would be the first like step? You know, I know that's kind of a crazy question, but that's a question that I hear often. Like, who do we turn to, or, you know, what do we do? Do we just stay put and don't move, or who's in charge at that moment if there's
I think it
an
depends.
enemy approaching?
I think it depends on the type of disaster, whether, you know, are you talking specifically about a military disaster?
Yeah, I didn't want to go there, but that's what everybody's talking about. And they don't know the first. I mean, I don't know what the first step would be.
Know your
you know.
neighbor.
What?
Know your neighbors.
Know your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
important. Little bit of experience with some veterans that were part of the citywide preparedness program for several years. And one thing is, there's really no place to go here. We're pretty much
On our own.
self-reliant at that point. So
Yeah, that's what I figured, that it's each their own kind of.
We don't have shelters. I don't know if the city has a bomb shelter. Other cities that I've worked for in the past actually do have bomb shelters in their basements, but I am unaware, since we don't have a city hall, there might be something in the bottom of the new federal courthouse, but obviously not enough for all of our citizens. So I gotta believe we're gonna be on our own.
Okay, Jackie, sorry. Are you? Did
And
you get your?
well, Mysti knows how to start off a meeting.
So I wasn't able to get my headset connected, but I moved closer. Is that any better?
No,
About
but
the same.
we can hear you. I mean, I can hear you. It's just a different sound than usual.
Okay.
It's-
Well, I'm
it's-
going to try to do less talking then and put the question out to the group. No, that's okay. So we wanted to reflect on that virtual evacuation exercise, and if anybody had watched it, what they had thought about it, if you had heard any feedback from your neighbors about it. And I've disconnected, so I apologize if you already talked about that.
Then
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a good exercise. It was pretty realistic, and just the narrators would come in, would kind of be like we kind of group talk, and then kind of get the subject kind of wrapped up, and then the operators would come in, and the wind shifted and the cloud was blowing a different direction. It's like, oh, what do we do now? But I mean, I think it was pretty realistic, and the time was I think the time was realistic too, that it happened, and then how long it took the cloud to start spreading, which was pretty quick, and then people were starting to experience the chlorine, and it was, I mean, to me, it was pretty realistic.
Yeah.
I see Katie's hand up if other people don't see it.
Oh.
Or Kate's.
Thanks. I was just going to say that I found it really curious that there was an underlying assumption that every single person was going to be leaving in an automobile. That there are so many of us who don't work that way, don't choose to work that way, and could be much more nimble and able to move about and navigate roadways in ways cars can't. And that the assumption in the exercise was that it was going to be a car-centric way of coping with things when they fall apart.
Is
So,
something to think about there is we had a shooting on Sunday in Southern Oregon on the highway, and both directions were closed for, I think, would they say 5 hours?
Something like that, yeah.
5 hours. And it was, you know, I-5.
Where are you gonna go?
So rally points here in the city have got to be established. It's not going to be able to get out of the area.
Yeah, those are really good observations. And yeah, the exercise definitely did miss a big aspect of that, of transportation that's not a car related. So that was the point of the exercise, is to identify where, you know, what blind spots do we have? What areas of talking to our neighbors are we missing? And that's a really big conversation that's important. So thank you for picking up on that. Charlesy.
Yeah, somewhat related to that, my assumption going in was that I would be thinking about roads that were still usable for evacuation. And the more I got into the exercise, the more I realized that the last place I wanted to be was stuck in a vehicle where I was in gridlock for hours. And as the winds shifted and the chlorine gas was moving in directions we couldn't foresee, then you're really stuck. You can't necessarily get out of that predicament. And so my whole approach changed to shelter in place and what I needed to do to secure a room for my pets and myself. For the recommended amount of time was about 12 hours. That was in some of the written material that was there. And it was based, I believe, on averages of something similar happening. So that was an education piece I hadn't known before. One of my neighbors did choose to use a bicycle to evacuate because he felt he could be more nimble in terms of getting out and not being stuck in traffic. But when the winds shift and you're on a bicycle, that personally didn't feel safe to me. So as an evacuation exercise, which one of the points of the exercise was to learn the evacuation areas and to be thinking in terms of evacuation, I think a lot of our thinking adapted and changed to the presumption that we would be using roads to other things, other ways of thinking about it. And the other common denominator for me was knowing your neighbors. I mean, letting people know if you have the time, and if you can't go outside to knock on their doors, how else can we get a hold of one another to give each other assistance and advice and so on. And in the case of the chlorine gas, we would still have our cell phones. We would still have maybe the use of a computer and so on. So thinking in terms of how your immediate neighbors can be assisted and assist you just in conversation and communication was huge. So I don't know in that case that a remote rallying point would have helped in that scenario, but that certainly, I agree with you. I don't know of a central rallying place that's available at this point.
Yeah, what I actually meant was like a rallying point per neighborhood. And in the chlorine gas, we didn't watch that yet, but in that instance, we do live in an area that people grow things. And so they have a clean environment for those things that they grow, if you know what I mean. Filters, filtered air, those kind of things. So if you can, it's a place to hunker down. Do they know what I'm talking about?
It's
No,
Oregon.
I don't.
You know, people that grow weed, they'll have a room usually set up that has filters in it, and it's a enclosed environment, a sealed environment. So that would be a place to, you know, in that scenario for chlorine gas would be a good place if they're willing to, you know, if you can get to know in your neighborhood, if somebody's doing that, then at least maybe 8 or 10 people can go to that place. So just because it's hard for everybody in every household to be able to have plastic and all the things they would have to do to seal off a room.
Was there, if we watch the video, was there a list of things that you would need to do to create a secure environment in a room? Duct tape and plastic?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And
We'll go back and watch that video. That would help for chlorine gas. I don't know. There's so many different ways for us to be in emergencies.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a slide on sheltering in place and some of the guidance from FEMA, I think is where we got that guidance from. And then we did talk about, you have to be adaptable to the emergency. It might not be chlorine gas. It could be something totally different. It could be just a shelter in place and you don't actually need, there's no gases coming into your house. It could be an active shooter situation. So yeah, lots of different ways to prepare. It's important to have a lot of different tools in that preparedness toolkit at home.
Phone trees are key. If I mean, we're not that familiar with all our neighbors, but we need to be. So, neighborhood by neighborhood, if you can have a phone tree, if you can have like a block captain, like in the old days in the 50s and 60s, everybody, you had neighborhood associations, you had a block captain, those kind of things, you find the person that's capable of doing that. Taking charge in a situation, not taking charge, but being the voice of reason and keeping everybody calm.
Being the connection point.
Yeah. Did you already talk about, the active shooter? I heard while I was working something about that everybody got on their phones a message about an active shooter or something like that. Not an active shooter. But a lot of places in Eugene, the point being that a lot of us are signed up on, like Apple has some kind of emergency notification, and a bunch of folks got near and far a message about some kind of danger and to stay, like, shelter in place and don't stay away from windows and that sort of thing. And it caused kind of a panic, a brief panic. And folks all the way in, it was over here in Santa Clara, and folks all the way in South Eugene had gotten the message. And so it was just very unclear, if there was a danger citywide or just in a specific area. So I had some questions about that, if anybody else had heard. But I guess not.
I don't think that's come up, but that was part of the exercise of talking about who's going to get these notifications. We talked during that about some of our neighbors might not have cell phones. They might not have internet or email. So how are we going to ensure that our neighbors to the left and right of us are hearing this evacuation alert or this panic alert, shelter in place, whatever it may be, knowing your neighbors or having a phone tree or some way to get in contact with them. I think an idea was to have a megaphone or a bullhorn and talk with your neighbors about what that might mean if you go into the street with that. So knowing them and starting that conversation is definitely important to make sure we're all getting these alerts.
I could comment a little bit on the alerts. Jackie.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Some of the preparedness teams have asked Patience Winningham quite a bit about that and had her go over a lot of it. The county's system just got started like summer of 2020 before the fires, and the little brush fire on Mount Pisgah was kind of the first one that they actually sent out. And it's a learning curve for everybody to know how they work and how to get them. Some of them go with your phone wherever it's at, your location. So somebody who got an alert in South Eugene might have been out at Irving Shopping Center or something, or on their way home, but according to where their phone was located. So they're fine tuning the system, and there's a lot of different parameters that go into it as far as when the alerts. The main thing is to sign up for them. Make sure you're on every kind of alert you can get. Redundancy is the best tool available, I think, through the county or the city alerts page. Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa?
So how do you get, if you're the person who knows about the emergency, how do you get the word out to post the alert?
911.
Is that literally how it works?
Well, if you have an emergency, call 911 and they'll determine what they need to do with it. They notify the county is actually the one that is the county emergency manager is the one who issues everything. But the sheriff has the ability, and the police do too, the city police. And whether or not you're in the city, out in your area, who knows? So there's a lot of interoperability between the agencies, and if it's a SWAT exercise, there's been a lot of them where there've been immediate notifications of neighbors. Hey, there's something going on in your neighborhood. Please, we have an escaped fugitive or something. Please, shelter in place. Countless of those have happened in the last couple of years. We just don't hear about them usually.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We're in the county, but so we don't have access to, most of us over here on River Road, unless you've remodeled your house or in the county. So we don't always have access to city services. So that was why I was asking the question, but I guess we would call 911 and let them sort it out.
Yeah.
I didn't know if, as neighborhood leaders, like if River Road Community or Santa Clara Community, like if we have a leadership structure and we know that there's an emergency in our area, that there's like a direct path to being able to get the message out, as opposed to going up through that triage of all those services.
One of the videos we have on our YouTube channel is an evening we spent with the 911 dispatchers. And I really encourage people to listen to that. They are absolutely able to call, make the judgment to raise an issue like that and get an alert out. They were very encouraging that when you're in doubt, do call. So.
I think Ed had something.
Yeah, I just so one of the CERT, so Eugene Springfield has a CERT team, and but there's very few. There's maybe 30 CERTs in Eugene and Springfield area that are active, and or that are known to the organization. But one of the CERT goals is called Map Your Neighborhood, is to just for CERTs to spread out in the neighborhood and find out and talk to their neighbors about what they want, what they're thinking about for disasters, if they need information, if they want to be trained for, urban search and rescue or firefighting and stuff. And if they if they're prepared, and what their options are. And so that's but because of the pandemic, the last couple of years, people have been reluctant to do that type of work, to talk to their neighbors that much. But there's a new pamphlet, a new CERT pamphlet that's coming out from the state of Oregon, and then I think I'll be doing some of that work this in the next starting up pretty soon. And if anybody who wants to train to be a CERT, there's a training starting in March, but actually starting at the end of March, but you need to sign up by, I think it's March 11th is the deadline to sign up for the CERT training. If any of y'all are interested in the training, give me your contact information in the chat and I can get back to you about that. But Map Your Neighbor, like the Bethel neighborhood's got I think 26,000 people in it, and there's about 4,000 in River Road and 4,000 in Santa Clara, so there's quite a lot of people.
40,000.
Yeah.
40, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it'll be a big job to figure out. I mean, when you talk about letting making sure the neighbors are hear the word, we're in the baby steps part of that process.
Yeah.
We got to look. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you calling on me, Mysti?
Oh, you said I was gonna comment, but your hand is up, so we got to follow the rules.
That's right.
Thank you. It is too late to get into this spring CERT training. Usually they have 2 a year. We don't know how many they'll have this year. It's a hybrid where half of it's online and you had to send in your completed hybrid certificate by the 11th, I think. Ed, it's already past that. But what I really wanted to say was that a lot of groups use social media to alert each other. You may have your own Facebook group in your neighborhoods or and ours, and a lot in South Eugene, we use Nextdoor as an alerting thing. I did it this morning. I woke up without any water and what in the world? I thought I checked the weather and it wasn't freezing. I was starting to Google, how do I check my smart meter? I don't know how now. And all of a sudden my alerts went off that there was this human being out in my bushes. And so I had everything going on and it turned out it was the eWeb crew. There was a water main break and they were out there fixing the lines. So I went out and asked the guy what was going on and he told me. And so I said, well, I'll put it on Nextdoor so all the neighbors know you're on it and you're working to fix it. It was like 6 a.m. It was still dark. And he thanked me really well. He says, oh, could you please let them know? So that was cool. I'll get off now. Thank you.
Lisa, I think I see your hand up next.
I just had a question about the CERT training because today's the 8th. So if the deadline's through the 11th, wouldn't there still be just a little bit more time or were they full?
They are not full. It's escaped me. I thought it was the 11th, but
I'm sorry, it is the 11th. I was looking at my watch and it looked like the 13th, but it's an 8. My watch isn't right, but it's like 10 hours or 12 hours. If you can do it all and get it done by then, send it to Tracy Bear or Ed. Send your certificate to Ed and he'll get it in the right place.
Yeah, and I've got people texting me about it, so I'll get back to you tomorrow probably.
Okay.
Thank you.
Possibly tonight.
I've been told there are also dates for CERT training at the end of June. I've gotten them from Andy Davis.
Yeah, there's going to be at least 3 trainings this year.
Good. I'll shut up.
Let's see, Charles, I see your hand up next.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to put in another pitch for Map Your Neighborhood. They are going to change the name of it, presumably later this year. It really doesn't matter what it's called. The point is that to please know your immediate neighbors. On the street I live, we decided to not let COVID stand in our way. We were very responsible in terms of masking and keeping our social distance, but we exchanged contact information and started to find out from one another what people's special needs were. If there were an emergency, do they have young children? Are there elderly people with a need for extra care? Do they have pets that they're concerned about and want us to know about? And just gradually, this has become not a terribly large network, but we meet once a month. We generally meet on Zoom, but we've met in people's houses when we can keep a distance from one another and when there wasn't an active variant going on. But I don't think it's wise to waste any more time getting to know who your neighbors are and let them know your contact information and vice versa. It's really created kind of an esprit de corps. We have a network of people that laugh together and share ideas and swap plants and so on. It feels it's a sense of protection. And so please just start small, but just get started. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. If anybody would like more information on Map Your Neighborhood or some documentation or paperwork on that, feel free to drop your email in the chat or send it to me in here. Charlie and I have a ton of resources to share with you and can talk more about that. And I'll add, previously there's been a lot of hesitation with the official Map Your Neighborhood program. People don't want to share what resources they have stocked up in their home, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Just talking to your neighbors and sharing that contact information is a great first step. You don't have to blurt out to the world what you have in your garage or in your basement. So there's been hesitation there. So I just wanted to make that point for the group too. You don't have to tell everybody what you have.
Right. And conversely, I've found that people are very generous. You know, if we're talking about the need for ladders, people, you know, have extra ladders and so on, but it can grow over time. And we're hoping that over time, we might even learn how to use radios and to certainly improve our skill set. Found out that one of our neighbors used to be a EMT. And so you just find out a wonderful world of expertise just in your immediate neighborhood. So it's going to be fun.
I just,
Thank you.
sorry, my question for Ed. Yes, I appreciate you sending me the link for signing up for the CERT training, but I got lost in the link. Like I couldn't figure out from the link that you gave me where to go. And I hate to ask for your hand holding a little bit more, but if there is like a more direct link to the certification we have to get done before so we qualify for the training, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mysti, I'm entirely capable of completely screwing up anything that's electronic.
No, I mean, for some folks, it's like, oh, it's just, you know, it's the language that you use, you know this information. And so it's just like, you know, reading perhaps a kindergarten book, right? But for me, who's such a newbie, I didn't know where to go from the link that you had provided. So I'm just outing myself as like, wow, I'm very ignorant and I don't know where to go from here. But thank you. So I just wanted to ask for that little bit more of a direct, what exact 8-hour online course am I supposed to get in order to, get involved with the CERT training?
It's through the University of Utah, and there's a link that I posted on the ENPN Facebook page this week. Yeah, I encourage everybody to join their Facebook page because there's a lot of information that goes out there, and a lot of it I get from River Road.
Yeah. Speaking of River Road, we have a Facebook page, and I'll drop that link in the chat. So if you're on Facebook, please like and follow our Facebook page.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we only have about 20 minutes left in our meeting. So I'm curious, as we've kind of reflected on where we've come from, what can we look forward to? What are some things that you'd like to see done in the neighborhood as far as emergency preparedness? How do we reach more neighbors? How do we get more people talking about these things? Are there specific trainings that you think we should be having each month, or specific topics we should be adding to our agenda? So I want to hear kind of future ideas from you. Charlie.
Well, one of the things that has gotten some discussion lately, it was triggered by both our exercise that on the chemical spill, but also the fact that there are some what are called inundation maps that were released from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers about what would happen to our area in the event that a dam or two were to fail. Probably as a result of an earthquake, which I think we're all aware of the subduction zone, the Cascadia subduction zone. And if the dams were to break, these inundation maps show how deep the water is likely to be. And this is something that I don't think, honestly, the county or the city are prepared to deal with. We need to start educating ourselves and start talking about ways in which we can prepare and weather the storm, so to speak, because again, the opportunities to escape by car might be there, but we're surrounded by bridges and overpasses that could be very vulnerable. So that's a whole area of expertise. I know that Thea has talked about it, and we've talked a bit to John Q, who was instrumental in helping us create the exercise on the chlorine spill. And I can foresee that later this year, there might be some trainings, again, experiential ones, to the best we can do that on that subject. I'm very excited about that, and I'd like to know if other people would find that useful.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I was very curious to see maps. And maybe one of our projects as a group could be even going to those physical locations that would be inundated, and I don't know, take a walk. And
well, the areas that would be inundated are exactly where you're sitting right now.
Okay.
But you know, it's and the maps, I can send you a link to those maps and you can see for yourself.
Great. Yeah, we should broadcast those, you know, maybe in
the chat
right now, of course, and then also in River Road Community's newsletter that go out in other community
This was
newsletters.
Yes.
Was it already in the newsletter?
It's been discussed at the board level, and next steps, we're going to have another conversation about it after the election.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be more conversation on that. You know, it's kind of tough to send out a map to the entire community and say, you're going to be underwater if this happens, without really explaining what information it is that we're sharing with the community. So we want to make sure that we're, you know, sharing it correctly.
Oh, come on. You don't want to be a little extremist to get their feathers ruffled a little bit? Just before, I know we're about over with time, but maybe something that a project we can work on is, if we remember last year when we had those extreme hot days, like 100 Oregonians died during that heat wave last year. And, you know, that might be something we can get the word out on, you know, generators, power outages. You know, are you prepared for extreme heat? Are our seniors prepared for if they should have, you know, the lights go out and their, you know, air conditioning quits and it's 116 degrees outside? So that's a topic I'm interested in talking about in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mysti. And I think there was another hand up. Tim, did you have your hand up?
I did, but I was asking about a link to the maps because I've heard about them at several meetings now, but I've never seen a link or any access to the maps. And if you send me the link, I promise I won't share it until you guys do.
Oh,
I think it's shared.
it's public information.
Yeah.
Well, and where is it?
Both the city and the county emergency managers have posted the link for us in our Zooms. So they are sharing it and they are already available in full. They weren't in December, but now they are.
And so they should be on the emergency management websites for the city and the county?
Yeah, we can get it to you, Tim. This Joel.
Yeah, just send me a link and I can follow up. Thanks.
Yeah, I think what is helpful is to have a little bit of explanation as to how to access the map function. It's not the most intuitive thing, but it is public information. I don't think that it's intended to say this is going to happen in our lifetimes, but it's just good information to know about in terms of opening up the dialogue with the emergency preparedness officials that would be there hopefully to help. And it would be worth getting maybe some speakers from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to come and start talking to us about what we need to know around that.
Well, and the good thing is that it shows you, okay, if you just had a catastrophic event and took out the dam entirely versus what happens if you have a spill over the top because the water gets too high or the dam starts weakening and they have to let the water out. So that's good to see that. Yeah. Can I go ahead? Should I go ahead with my question or my information that I raised my hand for? Now that I'm already talking. We had a brainstorming session and there was three of us, Ed, Charles C, and myself, and we came up with about a half a dozen different options. And this extreme heat is a good one, Mysti. Thanks for bringing that up. In line with that is the smoke impacts that are coming this summer. Who knows whether we'll have the fires will cause the smoke impacts, let alone the fire impacts. But so those are two things that are on the horizon, not too far out. Unfortunately, when we did an analysis, it wasn't up there at the very top with other things. I mean, basically, on the analysis we did, the continuity of our message, Map Your Neighborhood, was at the top, trying to keep those going. And then we talked about the dams and the fires and the smoke. So, but it is an impact that we're going to see, likely, if not every summer, quite often, on a regular basis. So we need to, I think it's something we should be aware of. And I think that has some direct impact to people, so it gets their attention. So it might be worth pursuing on a regular basis to make sure we're prepared as we go into the summer for the extreme heat and potential smoke impacts, so that people are aware of it. That's all.
Tim.
I would like to offer that if the group has a one or double-sided flyer that they would like to leave with Saco. We're having the Aubrey Park Wildflower Celebration on April 30th, and there'll be several tables there. And if there's any information you'd like us to impart to neighbors as they're wandering through looking at all the beautiful spring wildflowers in the park, we'd be happy to help distribute those.
When do you need the flyer?
It's anytime before April 30th.
Could we have a table?
Would you like to have a table?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard. Yeah.
I think that would be possible, probably.
Cool. Yeah, I need more information. So yeah, there's.
If you contact me or put it in the chat, your email in the chat will get you on the list.
Cool.
And it's a great event. We've had a number of years now, and it tapered off with COVID, but it's starting to come back. It won't be really huge this time, but we'll have neighborhood organizations represented with tables and some nice walks around the paths in the park. And they've been working on the park every first Saturday for many months now, and it looks great. So if you haven't been out there, at least take a trip out to Aubrey Park at River Road and Spring Creek Drive and check it out.
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity, Tim. And I'll add on that, anytime that we have a chance to talk about emergency preparedness with our neighbors, if there's somebody available to take advantage of that, that's always beneficial. As far as flyers are concerned, if somebody has a passion for designing flyers or putting information together, I mean, anybody that would like to help with that is always going to be welcome to get the word out to neighbors. So if somebody has an interest in that, definitely let us know.
Just out of all, I'd like to look into doing something like that, and I've got a little bit of technical background. I can help make up the flyer, and then if we get some other brain cells to work on besides my limited ones, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I
and we can
think
always
that would
put the request out. We can always put the request out to the email distributions list as well. We say, hey, we're working on this flyer on this specific topic. Would somebody like to join and help out with that? People might be more interested in volunteering for something like that, especially if they can't make it to these monthly meetings.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Charlie? Oh, you are muted. We can't hear you.
I put the link to the Army Corps of Engineer maps in the chat.
Oh, thanks, Chelsea.
I hope it
The
works.
maps are here.
The maps have arrived, yes.
Okay, we have about 7 minutes left in our meeting time. Does anybody else have topics that they want to talk about? Do you need help with a specific preparedness task? Do you need some next steps on something that you've been wanting to work on? Kind of open discussion if anybody has any questions.
I got a quick message. There's going to be a Zoom GMRS radio training on the 19th. I can let me get the links and I'll put it in the chat, but there's it's just get an idea of how to use the radios when there's an emergency, and who you get to report, who you report to, and the process for doing that if you're not familiar with that. So I'll get the information and put it in the chat real quick here.
And no radio is needed. It's all in
No,
Zoom.
exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to have a radio. Just go on. They're going to teach you how to talk.
Yeah, how to talk.
Lisa, I see your hand up.
Just two quick things. Reiterate, evacuation should not be high on the list of training. It's not going to happen. We're going to have to hunker down in place. And then on the radio situation, Motorola's are great. So just throwing that out there. They're not so expensive, and they're just little handheld. Motorola's are little, I don't know what you call them, like 14 channel little radios they're fantastic.
Yeah, I think those are going to be FRS radios, the little handheld ones. Thank you, Thomas. Mysti?
Oh, shameless pitch here. I am running for a seat on the board at River Road, and the elections are coming up here soon, next week, I believe. So if you show up and vote for Miss Frost, I'll definitely make emergency preparedness priority. So it's great seeing all of you, and I'm looking forward to working with you more. Definitely lots of events. I know everybody wants to get out and see the people. And so if I get the chair that I really want, I am going to just really push for community events and getting the people together and talking in a responsible way. But yeah, thank you.
All right. Anybody else with our last couple of minutes? Thanks, Joel, for sharing that radio training. I am actually going to be helping Jerry facilitate that training on the 19th. We have structured it to mimic the LA CERT radio training that they do, which is really awesome and effective. So I think he might have a cap. Yeah, I think he might have a cap on the number of participants he's accepting for this first training, but I think it's going to go really well. I'm excited about the content that we're going to share in the practice session we're going to do. So that's going to be fun.
Great.
Ed, I saw your hand up.
Well, just one thing I was like thinking about for a meeting topic would be if, for the earthquake, if we had what the building damage, the actual residential building damage would be. And I was, thinking of, there's not any contractors around here, I think, that work on earthquake damage, but there are probably a lot in California who might have a clue about how to, what kind of repairs, what kind of damage we could expect. And so I thought that would be a kind of a good topic because I've always been thinking of sheltering in place for the earthquake, but 'cause my house is built in 1990, so it's zoned back then. The zoning, that's when the zoning kicked in for the foundation to be bolted to the house. So I assume it's not going to fall off. I think it's not going to fall off the foundation. But I'd just like to know what damage I could expect because I got some big windows and skylights and stuff.
Along those lines, it could be that we want to know, what we'd have to do to retrofit our houses and the cost of doing that for preparing for those that are older than 1990, I guess it is. Yeah.
Well, there's retrofitters in Eugene for sure.
Yeah. I haven't talked to any, but probably something I should do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
great idea, Ed. That's a good one. Zia.
Friendly Area had a seismic retrofitting skills building session scheduled in March of 2020 with the City of Eugene building department seismic specialist and a vendor and somebody who had retrofitted their home. And we're all ready to go and they shut down the whole city on lockdown. So that never got off the ground. We are still, it's still something planned if we get back to holding monthly skill building sessions, but they're available. And all of those people would love to come and talk at any time. And I could give you all their contact information. I wanted to say on the radio program coming up, I did sign up for it, but if I will back out if it gets full and other people need it. I just wanted to join to see how it went. I figured that maybe what you'd be doing with the Zoom breakout room process. So let me know or just cross me off the list if it gets full. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. All right. And in our last minute, Lisa and Thomas.
Okay. I came from California in 2004, and because I lived through Loba Prieta and the office building I was in actually tilted over, and I couldn't work in it for 3 months. So we've always carried earthquake insurance on our house, but I was setting that up a couple years ago on the house that I live in now, and I asked them if we have an earthquake and the dams fail and my house is flooded, because I live in River Road and we are no longer in a floodplain, would the earthquake insurance cover the flood damage? And the answer is no, it will not. You have to carry both earthquake and flood insurance in order to be covered if your house is destroyed by being inundated with water because the dams failed. So just wanted to put that out, as that was part of my prep for disaster preparedness, was the fact that I needed to get both of those things to recover from that event.
Wow,
Thank
that's
you.
a big note. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right, we are at time tonight. So this meeting will be hosted on our YouTube channel. You can also save the chat with the 3 little dots at the bottom right if you want to keep anything that's in there in your notes. But we look forward to seeing you all next month and appreciate you joining tonight to talk to us. Thanks, everybody.
You bet. Thank you, Jackie.